Happy Tuesday, everybody. Today we're going to start our unit on subtraction, which I'm really excited about. We're going to be learning to estimate differences of three-digit numbers just like we did with addition. We're going to use our strategy of a number line, placing those numbers on the number line to round them to the nearest 10 or 100 so that we can find the difference between those two numbers. So our learning objective for today is we are learning to estimate differences of three-digit numbers. Why are we learning this? So that we can check for reasonableness of our subtraction problems. I will know I am successful when I can persevere through problems even when they're hard. I can estimate sums and differences before calculating to determine reasonableness of my answer. So we're looking to see if our answers to the original problem, our exact answers, are reasonable, if they make sense based on our estimation. So we're going to jump right in with our first problem. The problem says that the lunchroom has 142 seats. Children are sitting at 87 of the seats. What is the best estimate of the number of empty seats? So it's asking for the best estimate. Now remember, we've talked about what gives us the best estimate. What place value, when we're rounding, gives us the best estimate in regards to the number that's closest to the original, your exact answer. Now yesterday you had a problem with addition that asks you to round to the nearest 10, round to the nearest 100, get the exact answer, and then it asks you to decide which was the best estimate, which one was the better estimate, which one was closer to the original number. Some of you chose 100, rounding to the nearest 100, but when you looked at those numbers, rounding to the nearest 10 was 480. Our exact answer was 481. Rounding to the nearest 100 was 500. So 481 is closer to 480, so it gave us the better estimate. So in this case, we want to round to the place value that's going to give us the best estimate, and that's going to be the tens. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and hop onto our number line, and remember you can use the number line for rounding, and we're going to place these numbers on the number line to determine what two tens they're between, and then we're going to round to the nearest 10 to get the best estimate. So we're going to come over to our number line. Remember, you can get that off the manipulative slide to help you. And I'm going to place 142 on the number line, and we're going to see what it would round to if we're rounding to the nearest 10. Hopping over to this number line, I'm going to go ahead and put in 142. And I know that 142, the two tens that 142 is between. Oops, I didn't want to put 142 there. I need to decide what two tens 142 is between. And I know based on that 4 that's in the tens place that it's going to be 140 is going to be my first 10. If I'm counting by my tens, I know that 150 is the second 10 that it's between. And then I'm going to know that right in the middle, remember we have that benchmark number that's right in the middle, and that's going to be 145. Now I've got to decide where would 142 fall. So I'm going to go ahead and put me up another block, and I know that 142 is less than 145. So it's going to round to 140. So I know that 142 is going to round to 140. The next number that I'm going to put up there is my 87. I'm going to go ahead and put 87 here just so that I have it already in there because that's the number I'm going to be moving around. I've got to decide what two tens that 87 is between. Now I already know that it's going to be 80 at the beginning just because of that 8 in the tens place there. So I'm going to go ahead and put 80 here. And then the next 10 after 80 is 90. So I'm going to go ahead and put 90 here. Okay, I know right between 80 and 90 is 95, my benchmark number. I'm sorry, 85. Not sure why I said 95, but 85 is my benchmark number. I've got to determine where 87 would fall in this number line. I know it's after 85 because when I count, I know it comes after 85. So in this case, looking at this number line, this one's going to round to 80. or to 90, I'm sorry. It's going to round to 90 because it's greater than 85, and it's going to round to 90. So I go back and I look at my problem. I know that my estimated numbers are going to be 140 and 90. And I am going to try to find out how many seats are empty. I already know how many seats are in the lunchroom. I also know how many children are sitting in each seat. Now I want to know how many of those seats are left empty. So I have 140 minus 90. Now in this process, we can just count up if we need to. If we're not sure, we can use our counting up method by tens. So if I have 90, I'm going to count to 140 and see how many tens that I have. So to 90 to 140. And in this case, if I count up, I'm going to have 5 tens, which equals 50. So my answer is going to be 50. I'm going to go ahead and use my scribble tool at the top so that you can see those numbers. So I'm going to have 140, and my color is not showing up there. Let's see what color I have. Nope. Get a different color here. If it'll let me change it, I don't think it's going to let me change it. So I'm just going to insert a text box so that I can just type it in, because I'm not sure why it's not going to let me. So I have 140 minus 90. And again, I said that I was going to use the counting up method, and that's exactly what I did to get my answer for that rounded number. So you can use the counting up method. So in this case, my answer is 50. Now I'm doing a word problem, so I'm not going to finish it there. I'm going to actually restate the question. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to type in, there will be about, and I'm putting the word about there because it's an estimate, 50 seats empty in the lunchroom. So you always want to make sure that you're typing a sentence out, restating that question and telling the answer. So in this case, there will be 50 seats empty in the lunchroom. Our next problem here is about a zoo, and we're talking about how many children and how many adults visited the zoo. So on Saturday, 376 children and 132 adults visited the zoo. This problem is actually specifying the place value it wants us to round to. So it's asking us to round to the nearest hundred to estimate the difference in the number of children and adults who went to the zoo that day. So again, we can use our number line here. We're going to put the first number on our number line. We've got to decide what two hundreds 376 is between. Now, always remember when it's asking you about a place value, look at what digits in that place value. If it's wanting you to round to the nearest hundred, go to the hundreds place value. We know that that's a 3 there, so we know that's 300. We know that our beginning 100 is going to be 300. The next 100 is going to be 400. So we've got to think about where 376 would fall on that number line. Now you can use your number line. I'm not going to flip back over there, but I want you to think about that benchmark number. It's crucial whenever we're trying to round. Think about where on that number line 376 would fall. Is it equal to or greater than the benchmark, or is it less than the benchmark number? So in this case, we know that 376 is greater than the benchmark number. So we're going to round this one to 400. And we're going to do the same thing with 132. We already know, because of that 1 in the hundreds place, that 100 is the first 100. And then the second 100 is going to be 200. We've got to decide based on the benchmark. 150, is 132 greater than 150 or less than 150? If it's less than 150, then we know we're going to round to the smaller 100. So in this case, we know that 132 is actually less than the benchmark number, so it's going to round to 100. Now, when we're subtracting these, you can count up, or you already kind of know by counting that it takes 3 hops to get to 400 from 100. So we know that our answer is going to be 300 in this case. There was about 300 more children that attended the zoo than adults. So remember, you're going to write that in a sentence, restating that question and telling the number of the amount of children that visited the zoo more than the adults. So you're going to put that in that sentence form. On this problem here, we're talking about a gardener who has 77 flowers. He planted 58 of the flowers. Which is the best estimate of the number of flowers the gardener has left to plant? Now be very careful here because you see that word that says best. When you see that word, it means you're going to round to the lowest place value possible to get the best estimate, the closest to the original exact answer. So in this case, we know that we're rounding to the nearest 10 because the nearest 10 is the only place value that we're able to round to at this point. And if we put those on the number line, we're going to look to see what two 10s, 77 and 58, are between. Now be very careful again to look at that place value. If we're talking about rounding to the nearest 10, go to the 10's place value to see what that digit is. We know that that represents 70 in this number. So if we know that our first 10 is going to be 70. Our second 10 is going to be 80. Our benchmark number right in the middle is going to be 75. So we've got to decide, is 77 less than 75 or equal or greater than 75? If it's equal or greater, then we're going to round to the next 10. So in this case, we know that 77 is greater than 75. So we're going to round the first number to 80. So 77 is going to be rounded to 80. The next number, of plants is 58. So he planted 58. Again, we're going to look at that first digit. It's a 5. So we know that its value is 50. We know that the first 10 is going to be 50. The next 10 is going to be 60. That benchmark number is 55. Is 58 greater than 55? Or is it less than 55? If it's equal or greater, it's going to round to the next 10. So in this case, we know that 58 is actually greater than 55, so it's going to round to 60. In this problem now, we're able to go ahead and do our subtraction. So we have 80 minus 60. And if we know what 8 minus 6 is, then that number becomes very easy for us to calculate. 8 minus 6 is 2, so we know that we're going to have a 0 at the end of our number, so the answer is going to be 20. 20. So in this case, we would restate our question, and we would say that the number of flowers the gardener has left to plant is about 20. So remember today that all the problems that you're going to be doing on iExcel is going to be based on rounding again today. You're going to do that estimate. So all the problems are going to be about rounding today. So you're going to do those rounding processes before you add. Before you subtract. We've been doing addition for so long, but before you subtract. So make sure that you look at those questions closely. It may want you to round after, or it may want you to round before, but I'm pretty sure it's going to want you to round before. So make sure that you round those numbers. Use your number line on your virtual manipulative slide to help you if you need that. It's a great tool that helps you see it visually. I'm going to go back and click on that so that you can see what it looks like again and how you would set that up if you wanted to pull up that number line. So you're going to just put your marks here. You're not doing any hops today. You're just actually putting the two 10s on there, your bench or your hundreds, depending on what it wants you to round to. You're going to put your benchmark number always in the middle, and then you can place this number and move this one around as you need to based on where it would fall on that number line. So that's going to help you with those problems if you need that visualization. In regards to the work for me today, you're going to be doing the problem of the day as always, and then you're going to be doing P8 iExcel Math 3rd grade. So make sure that you are on 3rd grade and that it's P8, and it is about rounding and getting the estimated differences. Make sure that you, again, use that number line knowledge to help you, that strategy to help you, and that benchmark knowledge is what I really wanted to say, to help you decide where that's going to fall in that number.